I was moving out of an apartment that had washer and dryer hookups into one that did not, so I sold my washer and dryer. I ended up having separate buyers. A guy who bought the dryer was great. He was getting it for his daughter who was going to college. I helped him load it up in his truck, he gave me the payment, and I never heard from him again. The guy who bought the washer was a different story. I got a text from him asking if it was still available. We haggled the price, all of the normal stuff. We set a time and I waited for him to get there. Now, I only had 1 week left in this apartment, so I didn't care too much about random people coming to my house or home like I normally would. Pretty much all of my stuff was moved into my new place, but the internet wasn't turned on yet, so I was still just sleeping on an air mattress in the old apartment for the time being. He ended up being a few hours late and showed up in a truck that was used for transporting large glass panes. He had like 5 people with him, all crammed onto the front bench seat of the truck. They loaded it onto the truck with it leaning at a 30-degree angle against the glass pane rack, or whatever you would call it. He tried to haggle me down to an even lower price, but I didn't budge. He left and I thought it was all done. Later that night, I start getting texts from him about how it doesn't work and he wants his money back. I told him as it was written in the post that it was sold as is and it was working. I assume he damaged it the way he rigged it on his truck. Well, after a day, he starts calling me and cussing me out, texting me death threats, and I have other random numbers doing the same. 2 nights after I sold it, I wake up at 3 a.m. with people banging on my door, yelling. Luckily, I lived on the 2nd floor with no easy access to the windows. I sat there for about 15 minutes while they continued to yell through the door. The next day, I just moved the rest of my stuff into my new apartment and never went back other than to turn the keys in. I still got these calls and texts from him on random numbers for 2 months, over a $150 washer. I don't sell stuff on Craigslist anymore. I was new to a big city and decided I didn't need my car anymore. I listed my car for sale, a 6-year-old Honda Accord. A normal, well-dressed man comes over to see it after a few phone calls about it. He's in his early 40s and his name is James. He's buying it for his daughter in college. I always have my guard up when dealing with strangers, but so far James is personable and seems legitimate. He test drives it with me in it. He does a thorough inspection. He negotiates the price with me for a while. He asks me to hold the car for 2 days so he can get the money and come pick it up, and I agree. A 2-day hold where I won't sell it to someone else. 2 days later, James follows up and we meet again. Midday, normal neighborhood in an urban city. James and I test drive the car one more time. He gives me a Chase Bank cashier's check, which I said was fine. I tell him he needs to come to the bank with me to cash this check and to get the title notarized over to him, and this is when he starts acting nervous. We're pulled over on the side of my street discussing this, James in the driver's seat and me as the passenger. I figured if he was gonna steal my car, he would have done so 2 days earlier. Now I'm fairly comfortable with him. He asks me to do one more car inspection with him, then we'd go to the bank. I agree, but I'm very set on doing the transaction at a bank. As we both get out to inspect the car again, he jumps back in and floors it as I try to get back in with him. He pulls away quicker than I can react, passenger door wide open. I tried to run after him, and then I realized I'm not as fast as a car. There are bystanders, and I hysterically ask someone to call 911. One guy does. I had my phone, but my adrenaline was through the roof, and I didn't even think of doing it myself. As I'm on the stranger's phone with dispatch, an undercover cop car with 2 officers pulls out of an alley 5 feet from me. I wave them down and hysterically explain my story. They tell me to hop in the back of their car, which I do. I implore them that if they hurry, we can actually catch this guy. He just drove off. I explain the car and plate and everything. They assure me that they will not go on a high-speed chase with me in the car, but they'll radio it in to all surrounding officers, which they do. The guy gets away and the officers drop me off at the police station to file a report. I file an insurance claim too, and am so mad at myself for letting this happen. I suppose it's better than if I was in the car with this guy, but I'm still mad. Of course, James's burner cell phone doesn't work as soon as he had left. I go through insurance and their protocols to ensure I'm not committing fraud for about 3 months. The week I'm supposed to get paid, I get a call from police and they found my car 3 states over. James was working with a partner in crime. Don't remember his name, let's just call him Dickface. James stole the car and gave it to Dickface to sell so it wasn't traceable back to James and Dickface would have plausible deniability if ever questioned. Well, Dickface sold my car to an average Joe who actually did have a daughter in college who needed a car. The daughter tried to register her new car at the DMV and it came up as stolen. So the cops arranged for me, the average Joe, and Dickface, whose contact info average Joe had, as he paid him with a check and there was a paper trail, to meet with them at the station for a little chat. Dickface denies any involvement with James, but agrees to give us the money back that average Joe paid him if he can just leave without problems. We all agree to this. Average Joe and I say his daughter can keep the car and I'll take the money from Dickface. So eventually I did get paid for my car. But this experience sucked and was very stressful. Since then, I have bought cars and sold cars on Craigslist again, so I guess no lesson was learned. Except now I take a photo of the driver's license of all people I interact with from the start. Technically, this isn't my story, it's my mother's, but I'm slightly involved. This happened when I was around 3. Possibly 4, since it was in the summer. My parents and I had just moved into a new house in a safer neighborhood in order to raise me. Basically, they were looking for new 60s themed furniture for our house, so my mother took to Craigslist to try and find some. She eventually reached out to a man selling a much older couch. She had just taken me out of preschool before going to his house, so I was actually in the car with her. My mother is generally a very intelligent woman, although I'll admit, being a first-time mother, this was not the best idea for her to do. She had left me in the car because she didn't think it would take too long. He was standing outside of the house and, according to her, seemed like a completely average man, probably in his late 40s. He claimed the couch was in the basement and they would have to go down there. Apparently the couch was completely different from the one placed in the ad, so she turned around to ask him about it. He looked like he was sweating out of his mind and apparently started to ask her a bunch of very creepy questions along the lines of, "Are you a virgin and how old are you? Are you married?" My mother left very quickly and claims he actually chased after her. She drove off as quickly as possible and to this day says that she thought he was going to hit her over the head and sell her or something along those lines.